What's behind door number 2? Something special for
Something special for you.
What's behind door number 3? I'll fulfill your fantasy.
I will fulfill all of your
All you got to do is choose. Either way, you don't lose.
Issues That Matter with Calvin Lester and Stephen Jackson on WKSH 97.7 The Heat.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. I'm Calvin Lester. Stephen Jackson is in Baton Rouge serving the public, and he may be able to call in a little bit. We want to thank you for your kind attention. And, of course, as we always get started, we make a point to thank our station owner, station manager. He's the baker, the caker, and the candlestick maker, brother Johnny Antoine. And I think our special guest is at the door, brother. And we thank him for opening up this platform for us to give us an opportunity to talk to you about the issues that matter. And, of course, we've got a lot of things going on. There is an election this Saturday. I want to thank everyone who has gone out there and early voted, because we absolutely needed you to do that, and you brought your friends and family. But there are some people who haven't voted yet, excuse me, and they have an opportunity to do so this Saturday. And it's important that they go this Saturday and have their voices heard. And there are a number of things on the ballot. We can talk about the presidential preference primary. We can talk about the parish elections in terms of the Democratic Party, Republican Party, all that kind of stuff. But the main thing that we have going on this Saturday is we in our community have an opportunity to elect a sheriff. The sheriff is the highest elected office for the parish. And we have an opportunity to make a binary choice, someone that's going to move the parish forward or someone that's going to keep things as it is. And we at this show have made no bones about the fact that we are supportive of former Chief Henry Whitehorn. We are supportive of his candidacy. We are supportive of what he's trying to do and his agenda. And, of course, he's going to be our special guest this evening, so we are excited about that. So before we bring the chief on, a couple of things we want to let you know that's going on in the world. The first question I have is, brother, can you spare a dime? I don't know who's out there, but if any of y'all have an extra $500 million lying around, we could use that because y'all's president, y'all's former president, Mr. Trump, is needing $500 million to satisfy a judgment he got. So, brother, can you spare $500 million? Because it's clear that the sister who is the attorney general in the state of New York, she's trying to get that out of him, and I love it. So we'll see how that goes. In another note, in Baton Rouge, I was watching today, and one of our local state senators, I want to say it's Alan Seabaugh, has made a position where he is going to try to get rid of red light cameras, not just in the city of Shreveport, but in the state of Louisiana as well. So we keep an eye on that. And, of course, we've got, and we're going to talk about this some more, we got a bond issue that's coming up in April to vote on. So I've got some thoughts about that, but I'm going to reserve that comment for the issue that's at hand, which is going to be the sheriff's office. So let me say this. We're going to take a real quick break, but if you want to participate in this conversation, and it's going to be hot, it's going to be hot, it's going to be hot. If you want to participate in this conversation, there's several ways you can do it. If you're watching on Beyonce's internet, you can give us a note in the chat, or you can give us a call on the hotline. That number is 318-779-0459, 318-779-0459, and we will gladly get you in. So we're going to take a really quick break, and we're going to come back with our special guest because we want to maximize the time that he has with us. So this is WKSH. You listen to Issues That Matter, 97.7 Heat. We play what we want to play, and we say what we want to say. Stick with us. I know it's Eddie. Another good grandma night.
Oh, yeah.
Issues That Matter with Calvin Lester and Stephen Jackson on WKSH 97.7 The Heat.
And we are back. We're back. I'm Calvin Lester. Stephen Jackson is in Baton Rouge fighting the good fight. He may be able to call in this evening. Don't know if he's going to be able to, but we'll see about that. We have with us a very special guest. And if you want to talk to our special guest, let me give you the number. That number is 318-779-0459, 318-779-0459. Our special guest is offering himself as a candidate for Sheriff of Caddo Parish. Our special guest tonight is a gentleman who has dedicated his life to law enforcement. Our guest tonight is someone who, at this stage of his life, could very easily be hanging out with his children, his grandchildren, and plowing the back 40. But he has offered himself for a time such as this because he knows that our parish needs new leadership, and he is offering himself as a new leader. Our guest tonight was the first, as I appreciated, African American to be the commandant of the Louisiana State Patrol, served in that capacity, where he was the person who led the Louisiana State Police for the state of Louisiana. He's also has the distinction of being the first African American police chief for the city of Shreveport. And I will tell you, and I've never said this to him, I'm going to remind him, he was confirmed June 26, 2007. I remember that day specifically because that's the day at about 3:30 in the morning I found out that I lost my mother-in-law. And two things that changed things happened that day. Obviously, the death of my mother-in-law, but the second thing was I came to the council for one reason and one reason only, to take the vote to confirm him as the chief of the city of Shreveport, because our mayor at the time, Cedric Glover, was not sure that our other councilman would vote for him. And so he has the distinction of being the first African American to serve as our chief of police. Of course, while he was chief of police, crime was at a 35-year low. That's not something that is, you go past. But even after having done all those things, he found time to serve the United States as the marshal for the Western District of Louisiana. For those of you that don't know, the United States Marshal is a law enforcement officer at the federal level for the Western District. So you're talking as far south as Opelousas, Lafayette, up to Shreveport, up to the Mississippi line. He was the chief law enforcement person for the federal. So he has the distinction of serving as a chief law enforcement person for the state of Louisiana, as it relates to the police, state police. He was the first African American to lead the Shreveport Police Department, and he was the first African American to be the federal leader of the police department for the United States of America. And he has decided to offer himself as leader for Caddo Parish. I'm talking about none other than Chief Henry Whitehorn. Chief Whitehorn, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good, Calvin, and thank you for having me this evening.
I'm glad to have you, Chief. I'm glad to have you.
But let me just
go ahead.
I need to correct one thing.
Correct one thing.
I was the second African American superintendent of state police.
Okay.
Terry Landry was the first.
You're right.
That's
I
right.
forgot about
Yeah.
Mr. Landry.
Yeah.
I forgot. I'm sorry, Mr. Landry. I'm sorry. But as I appreciate it, in the history of the state of Louisiana, only 3 African Americans have served in that position? 4. Okay.
When Terry Landry,
Okay.
myself,
Okay.
when I left early, Stanley Griffin was
I forgot
my
about
chief
that.
of staff. He was
Okay.
appointed by Governor Blanco
Okay.
as the third,
Okay.
and then Lamar Davis as the fourth.
That's right. So in the history of Louisiana, there have only been 4 African Americans to lead the state police. And we know that the state police for the state of Louisiana is the most professional police department in the state. Not only do they deal with highway issues, they deal with investigations. Many of you don't know that as it relates to gaming, they have some responsibility with gaming and those types of things. So this whole idea that Chief Whitehorn does not have the executive leadership is just the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. So, Chief, let's get into it. You have had a outstanding and stellar career in law enforcement. He's a graduate, has a master's degree in criminal justice
From Grambling State
University. Yes. I'm letting him listen. Grambling won last night, Johnny.
Yeah.
So I'm letting y'all listen. Hey man, hey, yes. My dad is a graduate of Grambling, so I'm with Dad tonight. Normally I'm with Mom. Mom and I went to Southern, but we're gonna leave that alone tonight. Chief, you've distinguished yourself in law enforcement for your entire career. What does it mean to you to seek the position of sheriff for Caddo Parish?
I'm doing this to help our community, to serve the citizens of Caddo Parish. I know that I have the qualifications that's necessary to help and lead Caddo Parish to be a safer community. I was approached by some ministers and business leaders in this community, and we talked about why it was important this time for me to run and why the community needed me to run this time.
Right.
Folks have been asking me to run for sheriff for the last 12 years.
And I've been one of them.
And
I've been one of them.
And I said no to those requests.
He did say no.
But this time is different.
Okay.
And I see the need that this community deserves. And I'm putting myself in a position. God has blessed me
Yes.
to lead all those positions you talked about and prepare me to be the next sheriff of Caddo Parish. Now, there's one thing that we forgot to mention.
Okay.
And while serving as superintendent of state police, I also served as the deputy secretary for all of public safety services,
I did not realize that.
which covered the LP Gas Commission, the
Wow.
Fire Marshal,
Wow.
the Gaming Control Board, Management and Finance, Crime Lab,
Okay.
Office of Motor Vehicles, all of that, Highway Safety Commission, all of that came under me as the deputy secretary
Right.
of public safety. We had a total budget, when you combine state police and public safety, over $800 million budget.
Wow. So this idea that you don't have executive experience is it's a lie.
Yes, sir.
It's a lie. So listen, let's get right to it, Chief. One of the things that I'm concerned of, I heard some other folks not associated with the campaign have put out on the internet this whole idea that somehow when you are elected Saturday again, when you win again for the third time, that you're suddenly gonna open the doors of CCC and just release folks to the wild, and they're going to turn around, they're going to be run up in people's houses and the whole 9 yards. Talk to us about the reality, because I know where that comes from. So let me say this, ladies and gentlemen, there is an overcrowding problem at CCC. We know that. But part of the overcrowding issue has to deal with people in CCC that are wards of the federal government, that are wards of the state. Caddo Correctional Center is a jail and not a prison. And the difference between a jail and a prison is the people that are in jail are pre-trial detainees. They have not been adjudicated. They are accused, but they have not been found guilty. Prison is for people who have been found guilty. And there are people in CCC that are prisoners that have been found guilty. So I'm going to let you speak to what your plan is for relieving overcrowding, but I want you to specifically let folks know that you're not just turning people loose in the community? Because I think that's just crazy.
Well, first of all, the sheriff does not have the authority to release prisoners back on the street. That's a court function.
Right.
The judges handle that. That's
Right.
not a sheriff. The sheriff is a keeper of the jail.
Right.
And so my opponent, who has been an attorney for over 20 years,
Yes.
knows that the sheriff does not have that authority, yet they are publicizing that non-truth throughout this community.
Right.
And I do have a plan. My opponent doesn't have a plan.
Right.
But my plan is to work with state and federal authorities to reduce those numbers of state and federal inmates that's housed at CCC.
Right.
Also, there's a 100-bed facility called a work release facility that's
Right.
not even being utilized.
Wow.
We don't have work release anymore.
Right.
And so we can move some of those nonviolent offenders
Right.
into work release and give them opportunities to prepare for their release at some point,
Right.
and have a little money in their pocket so
Right.
that they don't have to go back to a life of crime when they come out of jail.
Right.
And so I've talked to DOC, Department of Corrections. I've talked to the United States Marshals, who are the ones that facilitate the federal prisoners coming into Caddo Correctional Center.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked to them about how we can reduce those numbers and stop accepting those inmates into CCC.
So
And also removing some of those DOC inmates into a DOC facility.
So let me I'm gonna ask you this, Chief. You have the unique scenario of having served at the local level, the state level, and the federal level. Are you, as the sheriff, required to house federal prisoners or state prisoners? Is that something that you have to do?
No, it's not something that you have to do.
Okay.
But we have been doing that for quite some time here in North Louisiana, both Bossier and Caddo, and also Natchitoches Parish. At one point, we were housing federal inmates in Natchitoches Parish as well.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's not a requirement. It's a partnership, a relationship, and how we can help our federal and state partners. But we're at a position now where that jail is overcrowded.
Right.
We're shorthanded on personnel.
Right.
And it has become a dangerous situation.
Right.
And so in order for us to help make our streets safer in Caddo Parish and get some of these violent offenders off our streets, we're going to have to make some room.
Right.
And so DOC, we house more state prisoners in local parish jails than they do in DOC.
What?
Total. Yes.
So you mean to tell me that there are more state prisoners in our parish jails than in the state facilities that's built for them?
That's correct.
So we could very easily send the state prisoners to the state facilities and move room to let you do what you need to do to deal with the knuckleheads that's running around here.
That's correct.
Wow. But that does not say that you're turning people out on the street.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. We'd never do that.
Right. And even if you wanted to, which you didn't, the sheriff doesn't have the power to do that.
That's correct.
So,
The-
Mr. Nicholson was lying about that.
Well, somebody is.
Well, I said it, not you. I'm not going to get you in trouble tonight. But I said it, not you. So, Chief, I know you've had an opportunity to kind of look at the sheriff's office and their operations, and you have some idea of how you want to run the sheriff's office. Can you talk to our listeners and the constituents about what the sheriff's office in a Henry Whitehorn administration would look like?
I really don't see a big change in what it's going to look like,
Okay.
other than maybe at the top level.
Okay.
And certainly, we'll look at some of that at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, we've got some great employees in the Caddo Parish Sheriff's Office.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as they're doing their job and doing it well, they have nothing to be concerned about.
Okay.
There are my leadership philosophy is going to be shared with all of the employees that are there. And it's going to set the framework of how I operate and how I expect them to operate.
Right.
But as far as a massive wholesale turnover, just go in and dump the basket over, we're not doing that.
That doesn't make sense.
We've got a lot of good folks over there.
Right.
We're shorthanded already.
Right.
And so we've got a job to do to protect the citizens of Caddo Parish. And I can't do that if I just go in and tell everybody to go home.
That makes a lot of sense.
You know, so we got a lot of work to do. I will do a thorough assessment of the sheriff's office and make changes where they're necessary.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, you don't just go in and change things just because you can.
That's right. So, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Issues That Matter. I'm Calvin Lester. We have with us Chief Henry Whitehorn, who is a candidate for Caddo Parish Sheriff. We're going to take a real quick break. And after the other side of the break, we're going to break down some of the ideas that the chief has as it relates to dealing with crime in our community, and a couple of questions I want to ask him about this whole idea of how the sheriff's office can, in fact, work with the city of Shreveport in terms of working together to serve the citizens of the city and the parish. You're listening to 97.7 The Heat, WKSH. We play what we want to play, and we say what we want to say. Stick with us.
I don't deserve this. Talking to your answering service. I need you. Hope you get this message. I don't deserve this. Talking to your answering service.
Girl,
Issues that matter
we'll get
with
into a
Calvin
little-
Lester
Yeah.
and Stephen Jackson on WKSH 97.7 The Heat.
Okay, I can't hear myself. Okay, all right, and we back. So we have been talking with, you can call him Chief Whitehorn, you can call him former commandant, you can call him former secretary, you can call him former U.S. Marshal, but we're here with Mr. Henry Whitehorn Sr., who is a candidate for sheriff of Caddo Parish, and if he is elected again, he will be the first African American to sit in the seat of power for parish of Caddo. So, Chief, one of the things that is talked about a lot, and we're not going to get into a lot of the policy, weeds, but one of the things that is discussed at the barbershops, at the beauty shops, at the churches, at the fraternity house or whatnot, is this whole idea that it's going to take more than just one agency to deal with crime. I've seen where D.A. Stewart has enlisted U.S. Attorney Brown on some things to help on some specific issues. And over the course of time, we've had this conversation in our city, and in times we've had scenarios where the state troopers come in and patrol certain areas that are hot spots when things are going on. And so one of the things that I have said, and several others have said, is that we need to have a team approach where we have the sheriff's office, we have the SPD, Shreveport Police Department, we have state patrol, and if necessary, the federal level, working together to coordinate our efforts, because the real enemy that we have is the criminal element. And I just think that having you as a sheriff makes all the sense in the world, because you have experience. You've been the police chief of this city. You've been the commandant of all the state patrols for the state. You've worked at the federal level. So if anyone is able to get everybody in the room to speak the same language, we have you who can do that. And so kind of talk to me about your thoughts about how you envision, as sheriff, you can work together with other law enforcement agencies on a team approach to deal with crime in our community.
Yeah, Calvin, it's going to take a collaborative effort to get a handle on the violent crime that we're seeing plaguing our communities. And the partnership and relationship piece is key. I have already built relationships throughout the law enforcement community, throughout this state and even throughout this country. I have relationships and folks that I can call, reach out to, that are willing to assist us in this community. And one of the things that I often talk about is force multiplication, and that's being able to use all of these agencies to work together. But the biggest piece of this crime fighting package is going to be community engagement. The community first is going to have to trust us and feel that what we're doing is legitimate, and they want to be involved in it. But you can't isolate that community engagement piece and just think the law enforcement piece alone can do it. And so I've done that as well through our community policing efforts. I showed how to do that when I was chief of police.
Yes.
And so it's not going to be easy, but I know we can do it. And those relationships and partnerships are already in place. In many cases, right here in Caddo Parish, they're working together. But it's about focusing on a particular issue and everybody getting out of their silos and coming to a common ground and working together to target a certain group or problem.
Right.
And we can do that together in Shreveport Caddo Parish, and I know how to do it. And those conversations have been had in the past, not too far past, and we can do it again and get a handle on some of this illegal gun violence that's plaguing our community.
Well, I will tell you this, Chief. One of the things that I can say, and I was privileged to work with you for at least 4 years during your time during my last 4 years on the Shreveport City Council, and I can say that you were always open and honest about what was going on. When I brought issues to you, you were there to deal with it, and you had a lot of command of the police department, and let me tell you, it's not lost on me, and I think we've said this to you before. I have been in situations. I have served in my 8 years on the council under 1, 2, 3, 4 police chiefs. And one of the things that I appreciate about you is when you arrived on scene, we knew who was in charge. And there's something to be said for having what they call a command presence.
Absolutely.
To let not only the citizens know, but your team know, we've got a commander. He knows what he's doing. He's going to give us some instructions. We're going to follow those instructions, and we're going to get things done. And I think I can say, because the record is really clear, that during your time as chief of police, Shreveport had the lowest crime in a generation, and a generation is 30 years. I think we had the lowest crime in like 35 years across every metric. Homicides, Part 1 crimes, for those of you that are criminal justice folks like me, Part 1 crimes were down significantly to 35-year lows. So we have someone in Chief Whitehorn whose program works.
And we won national awards through the
Correct.
International Association of Chiefs of Police for the work that we did.
Right. And Chief, talk to, and I want to kind of segue into from the police piece to the political piece. That was not done in a silo.
Correct.
You went out and you engaged the community. You talked to folks in the neighborhood. You sent your officers out there. You gave them cell phones. You embraced this idea of community policing. Well, it seems that the campaign has also embraced this idea of bringing people together. People who may not have been on the same political side are working together in a united fashion to get a common goal. Talk to our listeners about how important it is for us to come together around the concept of bringing new leadership, progressive leadership, professional leadership to the sheriff's office in Caddo Parish.
Well, we recognized early on that it was going to take the entire village to win this race. And so, and I'm using that as an analogy.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes all of us working together for a common good to make the change necessary that we need to see in our community. And so we reached out to all segments of our community to try to make sure that we were doing what needed to be done to make a difference, first of all, and to win this election.
Right. No, I think I'm impressed because I've seen people knocking on doors. I've seen engagements through text messages. I've seen engagement from our churches and in our faith-based community. Because you're right, when you're doing something as historic as, the sheriff is, let me not assume this. Chief, talk to our listeners about what the sheriff does. Because I don't think the average person has an idea of how broad and how much the sheriff of a parish can touch people's lives in a number of ways. So kind of talk to our listeners about what the sheriff does and how the sheriff can touch their lives in a major way.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer for the parish.
Right.
He's the chief tax collector for the parish.
Mm.
He is the keeper of the jail.
Right.
He is the Homeland Security director.
Mm.
And that's just a number of things that the sheriff does, and community liaison, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
where he can bring together all the law enforcement pieces together under one umbrella.
I mean, that's huge. I mean,
Yeah.
you're talking about law enforcement. You're talking about collecting property taxes. I mean, how many people work for the sheriff's office?
It's about 600 deputies.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of folks. And to keep all of that in the focus and moving in the right direction, it takes a Herculean task, but you have experience in leading large and diverse organizations.
Yes.
What are some of your organizational philosophies that you're going to bring to the sheriff's office that can ensure that that office is going to run well?
Well, first of all, I believe in treating people the way I want to be treated.
What it is.
And that's the foremost rule. You know, I'm not going to ask anybody to do something that I wouldn't be willing to do myself.
Right. That's huge, Chief. That's huge. That's huge. So listen, we're going to take a real quick break, and then we're going to give some final comments. You're listening to 97.7 The Heat, WKSH. We play what we want to play, and we say what we want to say. Stick with us.
Okay.
WKSH 97.7. You can call 318-779-0459 and you can ask Chief Whitehorn, Sheriff Whitehorn, any question you want to ask. Just be, like I said, cordial. 318-779-0459 before he gets off.
Issues That Matter with Calvin Lester and Stephen Jackson on WKSH 97.7 The Heat.
And we are back, 97.7 The Heat, WKSH. I'm Calvin Lester. Stephen Jackson is in Baton Rouge serving the public. We've been having a really broad and good conversation with Mr. Henry Whitehorn. I call him Chief. That's not on his birth certificate, but he was the chief of police for the city of Shreveport when I worked with him. And when I worked with him, Shreveport had the lowest crime in 35 years. And I fully expect that when we return him to the sheriff's office again, because he's won the election, this will be his third time winning, that we're going to be able to move our parish forward. So, Chief, in this last little segment, and I know you got to go because you got a lot of things to do and a lot of people to see, and I thank you for taking some of your time, and Brother Henry Jr. for being with us. Talk to our listeners about why it's important for them to reach out to their friends and family who have not voted yet. I think we've done a really good job of getting a lot of people to the polls early, but there are still some folks who have not voted, and we know who they are, and we need them. And we're not talking bad about them, because we need them. We need them to go vote.
Absolutely.
Talk to us about what we can do, what our audience can do about getting people to the polls on Saturday. Why is it important, and what do we need them to do on Saturday?
Listen, folks, elections have consequences.
Yes.
All politics start at the local level.
Yes.
And so it's important that we make our voices heard. This right to vote is something that we should not take for granted. A lot of folks bled, they died, they suffered, black and white,
right,
so that we could have this right to vote and make our voices heard. And so we're just encouraging everybody to take the opportunity on March 23rd to go out if you hadn't already voted early. And if you have voted early, get somebody else that you know that hadn't voted and get them to the polls on March 23rd. And let's let our voices be heard loud and clear, that we won't change in Caddo Parish. And so if you don't have a ride to the poll, you can call 318-761-4677. That's 318-761-4677. We have vans and vehicles on standby, and we'll be picking people up and getting them to the polls. So we're not going to have any excuses, because we will make rides available for you. Each one, take one. That's our motto. We had 21,200 and some odd votes this last election. If each one take one, that's 42,000 votes that we can have. That would be the total of all the votes of the last election.
right.
And so we can make this happen. We had 52,000 registered voters in Caddo Parish that did not vote in the November election. 52,000. And so the voters are out there. But what troubles me is even today, I went shopping, and the person that checked me out, I asked him, I said, are you going to vote for me Saturday? They said, vote for what? We still have folks in our community that doesn't even know that there's an election.
Right.
So if you know someone that's registered to vote, call them, reach out to them, call your neighbor, knock on their door, ask them, are you going to vote? Have you voted? And if they hadn't, don't try to make them feel bad, but just get them to the polls. Explain to them why it's important for them to get out and vote. We need everybody to go and vote March 23rd so that we can make a difference in Caddo Parish for our young people. You know, we got so many things going on, and some of our folks doesn't have opportunities like some of us. And so we just need to make sure that we're putting our young folks in a position to succeed and help them stay out of trouble. We got so many youngsters that's involved in this violent crime, and those that are involved in violent crime, we're going to get them off the street, and we're going to lock them up. But those that need help, we're going to try to help them. And so let's get everybody to the polls this weekend. Let's make history in Caddo Parish.
Chief, I agree. There's no excuse for us not to get out there and vote. I've been election. I've been a candidate. I've been a consultant. I've been some of everything with campaigns off and on since I was a student at undergrad at Southern University back into the 90s. And I've never been involved in a campaign where the candidate won by one vote. I've literally never seen it happen. Even going back to student council, I've never seen it happen. But what your win and our family members and our church members and our sorority sisters and our fraternity brothers and the guys at the barbershop and the ladies at the beauty shop and the people at the grocery store and whatnot, if we let folks know this is something that's important to us, we've talked about why it's important. We've showed you what the sheriff does. We've talked to you about what a Whitehorn administration, some of the things that it's going to look like, that's going to be radically different, that's going to be in a positive direction for moving our parish forward and keeping us safe. If you want to see those things happen, get up Saturday morning and go vote and bring somebody with you. If you don't vote, Chief is right, elections have consequences, and usually when you don't vote, you get the worst. When you sit back and let somebody else make the choice, they're going to ram something down your throat that you absolutely do not want. I will say this, and I'm not going to say the Chief, so Chief, just keep your head closed, and if you got to blink, don't blink. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been hearing about some of the draconian measures that's going on in Baton Rouge as it relates to crime and punishment. And none of those issues, in my opinion, has to do with crime in terms of preventing crime. It's just more punishment. What is Shreveport and Caddo Parish going to look like if you have someone that's dancing to that sheet of music, as opposed to a thinking sheriff who's going to follow the law, who's going to arrest the people that need to be arrested, but that's going to make sure that things are done in the right way, that's going to be effective? You've got a binary choice, ladies and gentlemen. You've got a choice between a candidate who has never arrested a human being in his life. Never. You've got an individual who has dropped crime, who has served as our police chief, who has served as our state patrol commandant, who has served as a United States Marshal, from the state level, the city level, all the way up to the federal level. If you want experience, we've got it. If you want someone who created the entire system of community policing, where you had police officers that were coming to people's houses that you could call on the cell phone. What is going to look like if we have a parish that you've got parish deputies going and talking to folks so that they don't have to give their information, and they can feel comfortable that if I give you some information, it's going to get handled, as opposed to you putting me out there in the middle of the street. Well, we saw what had happened in Shreveport. Crime went down. We've talked about this idea that we've got to bring the state, the feds, the city, and the parish together. You've got someone who has experience at all of those levels. There is no reason why we cannot support Henry Whitehorn. The only question that we have as a community is, do we have the strength and the fortitude to do what needs to be done? I believe that we do. I believe that we do. And I believe that we will. And what we're encouraging you to do is have that same faith. But the Bible says faith without works is nothing. So we can have all the faith in the world, but you need to get off your blessed assurance and go vote. And that's going to be my message, not his. Get off your blessed assurance on Saturday and go vote. Chief Whitehorn, what's your final comments for our audience? What do you need them to know for Saturday?
Before I go,
Yes.
I learned a long time ago, when somebody does something good for you, you need to thank them. And so I just want to thank all of my supporters, all
Yes.
of this community, the faith-based community. The pastors have been outstanding. The nonprofit youth, young groups that are out there that's supporting me. I just want to thank everybody that's getting out and making sure that their voices are being heard. And the last thing I want to say is, if we fight, we win.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chief. And that's the word. And we've heard it. You're listening to 97.7 The Heat, WKSH. We will see you on Tuesday, but my expectation is everyone in the sound of my voice will get up. They will go vote Saturday. They will bring somebody with them to go vote, and you'll cast your vote in the right way, and that would be for Chief Henry Whitehorn to be the next sheriff of Caddo Parish. He's already won the election, but we're going to have to win it again. You know, Big Mama said if we want to be considered equal, we got to be twice as good. So we're going to have to win this election 2 or 3 times, but that's fine. If you go vote, we'll get it done. So you've been listening to Issues That Matter, 97.7 The Heat, WKSH. We play what we want to say, and we say what we want to say. Stick with us, and we will see you on Tuesday. Have a great evening.